Hi everybody, it's time for a new video. It's a gorgeous day and I've been working hard in the hot sun on the utility room foundation, which I've made some decisions on about the doorway, and I'm really happy with how the work is going. I've also decided on a name, so it's no longer called the tool shed, no longer the utility room, and I'll reveal the name that I chose at the end of the video. And I also do some stuff in the garden, ferment a hot sauce, chat about some garden plans, and just have a really nice few days on the land in this beautiful weather. So let's get into the video. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you again at the end. Okay guys, after a whole bunch of work, I've got some sand resupplied, but the car is looking like a complete disaster, even for a car tractor. And I've definitely had this thing messy before, but I feel like this is a new all-time low. I mean, look at this. It's ridiculous. I did have the unfortunate incident once of the explosion of a horse manure bag in here. That was not pleasant. Maybe I'll come back to that later. And then also having straw and carrying straw around in the car is also not amazing. It definitely gets dirty, so perhaps I need to visit to a little car washing place. I don't know. So I've got 2 buckets of sand ready for me, and I've used up all the remaining lime to do some premixes. So these are ready to go tomorrow, because today I've got plans. And yeah, it's been a busy day, so I'm all set up for some work tomorrow. I think I'm gonna focus on stonework. Where it's gonna be, I haven't decided yet, but possibly the doorway, possibly the little wall there, or possibly I'll continue with the larger stones at the back. Either way, I feel like it's gonna be really fun and exciting, and I'm anxious to get this pile out of my face and into some walls. So, I'll see you tomorrow for a busy day of work. I woke up this morning very eager to dive into the work on the foundation, but I decided to start the day with a bit of a tidy up. Everything was getting a bit chaotic and crazy, so I moved things around and tried to get organized for a productive day of work. So this isn't looking massively different to how it did this morning, but I have been working away, trying to find some stones. I'm finding it more difficult to find decent stones, so that's going to be a struggle later on. I've also pulled these 2 stones out from the front, because this morning I'm going to work on the door, and I have a bit of a crazy idea that I think might work, but rather than explaining it, let's just get the work done, and hopefully I can get this in by the end of today. actually. Let me get this gear off first before I do anything else. It's another really hot day, and it's quite unpleasant in all this stuff. So, off you go. And basically what I'm doing is trying to make, I guess, a sort of stone hearth to eventually build a wooden door frame onto. So I have this stone, it's kind of a funny shape, but it's got a nice flat top on it, and so my idea is to put it in place here, and then that can be the indicator for where the door is going. And then I'm gonna take the end of this one and possibly stick it in there like that, and then it gives me a spot to put the wooden posts onto. So that's the plan. I'll go in somewhere here. Oh, these are heavy. Yeah, something like that. And what this also does is it raises the level of the floor to the perfect size, I think. So I've got a little bit more chopping to do so I can get this to fit in perfectly. And then I've got a couple more stones to find. I've got to get rid of these things. And then I'm going to do some mixes and get everything in place. So I'm going to take a little lunch break, and you'll see me again when everything is ready to be limed into its spot. Whew. So things are going as planned. I'm building a doorway, and I've got a whole bunch of other stones to put in place as well. It's really hot out here. It's super sweaty. The camera is not enjoying it. It's freaking out a little bit, and the mix is going off as well. So the camera's going away, and I'm going to power on with placing some stones, and I'll check in again in a couple of hours. Okay, I'm back. It's been 2 hours worth of work, give or take, and I've laid a whole bunch of stones. Some on the side here, and some on the front, which I'm very impressed with. Maybe surprised is a better word to use than impressed, because when I started this day, I really had no idea what to do about my entryway. And now, surprisingly and possibly impressively, I feel like I've come up with something that's really cool. Behold, I have a doorway looking thing that is going to connect to the front stones at around the same level. And I'll build some posts on top of these little things. All of that other stuff is still to be determined, but the thing I'm happy with is that I actually got this idea to work with these smaller stones, and I managed to lay this bottom piece in place so it's mostly flat that way, or level that way, and it slopes out a little bit to the outside, so rain should shed off of it if it does happen to get on there. So I think it's looking really cool. I put a stone there. I stuck another stone there and some underneath as well. So things are coming along nicely. It's been very physical, really hot, but I'm so pleased. I love how this thing is looking. I think every time I push forward a little bit more on the TOOLSHED foundation, actually, not the TOOLSHED, I have a new name for it, and I'll reveal that at the end of the video. So for the moment, let's just call it the utility room. Every time I push forward a little bit more on this utility room foundation, I feel really good because the work is so heavy, so hot, and quite difficult and draining. When I put a few more stones in place, I always feel really proud of myself. So this is where I got to. I think it's looking really cool. The pile of stones is reducing. Hopefully I have enough decent ones to actually finish this thing off and continue on the wall as well. But for the moment, I'm gonna give up on the stonework because, yeah, it's pretty hot and sunny out here, and I think I need to rest up for the rest of the day. So, very pleased with my few hours of work today. Hope you enjoyed following along. And yeah, I think tomorrow we'll do something a little bit lighter, probably in the garden. Good morning from yet another beautiful day here in Central Portugal. I'm intending on heading down to the garden to do a bunch of stuff down there very soon, but before I do, I've got some hot sauce preparation in store for you. This thing has been fermenting away for about a week, and I keep seeing it on my shelf, wondering if it's ready. And I've been told that when this thing stops bubbling, that's when it's ready to go. So it's looking pretty bubble free after having a bit of activity over the course of the week. These jars are amazing. Basically, it just allows the air to escape without having to worry about burping it all the time. So I definitely would love to pick up some more of these things. And so in here we have some pineapple, some garlic, jalapenos in a salt brine. Everything's all fermented. I'll put a link to the recipe below. And now I strain it out, add some ingredients, blend it up, and then we're gonna have a delicious hot sauce. So the jars are amazing, but these little fermentation weights are also extremely handy. It weighs everything down so you don't get kind of stuff floating to the top that'll go moldy. And so everything's looking really good in there. And let's strain it out. Oh yeah, also onion in there. And the garlic is turning blue, which is weird. I don't think it's a problem. I feel like I've seen people asking this question on the internet many times before about their weird blue garlic. So I am not concerned. I think it'll be fine. So you want to strain out all this amazing goodness, keep the brine to add to the sauce later in case it's too thick. And now I guess add some ingredients and blend it up. So I don't really know a lot about the ins and outs of fermenting. I've done a little bit here and there. It is a really nice way to preserve food, and it does something. It breaks down stuff in the food that's being fermented that makes it good for your guts in some way that I don't really know. I am more of a fan of pickling, and pickling is tasty and it's a good way to preserve food as well, but it doesn't have the same kind of health benefits as fermenting does. So I'd like to get into it a little bit more. There's all kinds of easy things to do, like these hot sauces, kimchi, sauerkraut, stuff like that is all fermented. And yeah, I would like to learn more about it, because I've been having pretty good success with my garden every year, and just having another way to preserve food is always good. So let's get this into the jar for blending, and I'm gonna add in vinegar. Weirdly, in Portugal, it's hard to find white vinegar, and that's what the recipe calls for. So anytime anything calls for white vinegar, I do a mix of white wine vinegar and apple cider vinegar, both of which are just slightly different to the usual white vinegar I'm used to in Canada. So this is gonna be a tight fit. Let's see how it goes. So we need some limes. These limes are from my tree down on the bottom terrace. It's packed with limes, and that makes me very excited. This recipe calls for a couple tablespoons, so let's try a couple of these limes here and see what that does. I could measure, I suppose. So juicy. Let's just go for it. You can never have too much lime juice. That's my philosophy. Oh, baby. Okay, lime juice in. Vinegar time. Let's measure this one. One of these. And one of these. Bish, bash, bosh. In you go. So the last thing to go in is coriander powder, half a teaspoon, and cumin, also half a teaspoon. So pretty easy recipe, and I actually do really love preparing food and preserving things. I obviously pickle. I have a lot of stuff to preserve from the garden every year, and so my decision to turn the tool shed into more of a utility room, sort of food prep area, I think is a really good one, and I'm looking forward to designing a space with that purpose specifically in mind. It does mean that I think I'm going to end up putting the washing machine on the other side of the building on the outside under a little protected area, and the inside I'm going to have a sink. So I'm going to go full food storage, food prep space, and it'll be really nice to be able to look stuff up on the internet and come up with interesting designs and good ways to create storage in such a small area. So I'm excited for that. But I'm also excited for this hot sauce, so next step, let's blend. Okay, it's all blended, and let me tell you that when I was blending this thing inside, the fumes from the chili was really getting to my eyes, so I think it's going to be spicy. And I just blended this using a hand blender, so it's pretty, still a little bit chunky, but I think that's okay for what it is. So I don't know if I'm brave enough to go pure sauce. Let's get it on a cracker and cheese, and hopefully I don't blow my face off. Probably should start a bit smaller than that, but you know, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind. Okay, it's spicy. It's very spicy, but not in a destroy your face kind of way. It's like a flavorful, pineapple-y, delicious, wonderful hot sauce. I'm a fan of this. Round two. Really, really good. So the recipe is below, and I think this is something I'll continue to make. Let me just try it without cheese, actually. Full flavor. Yeah, so it's very spicy, but it's more flavorful than spicy. It's not one of these insane hot sauces. So the recipe is below, and I'm gonna head down to the garden now, harvest a bunch of green tomatoes, any other tomatoes, pick some basil for drying, and I have a whole bunch of red chilies down there to harvest as well. So I'm gonna find a recipe for fermented hot sauce. This is for jalapenos. I'll find something for other chilies and get that on the go as well. Because I do love a good hot sauce, and fermenting chilies is a really easy first step introduction into the world of fermenting. And I have lots of chilies, so I'm gonna have lots of hot sauce in my future. So I'm gonna stick this glorious concoction in a jar, do some dishes, get my place tidied up a bit, and then head down to the garden where I have a lot of work ahead of me. I've had a really productive morning. I got the hot sauce blended up and ready to go. I'm making labne. I've never tried that, but it's as easy as putting some Greek yogurt into a cheesecloth with some salt, so I'm giving that a try for the first time. I've done some computer stuff, done some tidying, and it's been just a really relaxing morning, mostly spent indoors, which is kind of silly because it's absolutely beautiful out here, and I definitely have a lot of stuff I could be doing in the garden, including harvesting all these chilies for my next hot sauce, harvesting some green tomatoes for pickled green tomatoes, which is delicious, and then I want to clear some beds because I'd love to get some of these things in the ground. And these things that I want to plant are lupins, and they're really great for fixing the soil, adding nitrogen into the soil, acting as a living fertilizer. And I'm hoping by planting them in some of the beds, it'll also help keep the weeds at bay. They're a popular bar snack. You'll often get them if you're drinking beers at a cafe in Portugal that bring a little plate out. They're salty. I don't love them. They're not my favorite thing, but a lot of people swear by these things. And when you are eating them, you do have to remember to bite off the outer shell and then eat the inner part only. I think the first time I ever ate them, I just stuffed the whole thing in my mouth, and it was a rather unpleasant experience. So they're tasty if you eat them the right way. Not exactly my thing, but if you're in Portugal and see them in a cafe, give them a try. So I'm growing these more for fertilizer purposes, just keeping the weeds at bay, fixing the soil. And I think what I'll do is clear this bed here, except for the chives, add some of this soil in, and see if I can get some lupins in there. So I've got a big, beautiful bowl of spicy red chilies to turn into a glorious hot sauce, and way more chilies on the way. This is very exciting. I love these plants. I think that they're so cool how they grow. They look amazing, and they're extremely spicy. So they're a fantastic chili. I think it's bird's eye, or more commonly known as piri piri here in Portugal. And look at this. I've just found a whole jalapeno plant that's been hiding. So this one hasn't actually been harvested. And I have a lot more jalapenos over there as well. So it's looking like a bumper crop this year. And though I wouldn't exactly call this a bumper crop, I have managed to find a few more raspberries on these sad plants. So I've got that bowl there, and I've just discovered a whole bunch more on this branch as well. And I know that these plants need to go in the ground. The problem is deciding where. One of my big dreams for this property is to have a dedicated berry garden, and so it makes sense to plant the raspberries in the place where that's going to be. The problem is, I don't really know where to put it. I feel like one of the best contenders is this space here. The problem is that it gets quite waterlogged in winter, so I need to kind of figure that out. It could be a case of perhaps, I don't know, building up the level so it's kind of on the same level as the upper garden. That'll take a lot of soil and stuff to do that. Or just planting it in the ground here and monitoring the situation. And so that, my friends, is the reason why the raspberries are still living in those sad little pots, but I'm going to try to address it this year and give them freedom. But the plants are doing amazingly well despite their imprisonment in these buckets, and so it's going to be really interesting to see how they do when they're planted in the land, in the soil. It's mushy. And they've got, yeah, all the nutrients and all the goodness to tap into, because I haven't really topped these buckets up with fertilizer maybe ever, and I'm pretty sure they've been in there for around 2 years. So it's crazy to me that the raspberry plants are still cooperating and giving me berries, but it's a pleasant surprise. So this is going to do me for breakfast on my yogurt for a couple days, and that's very exciting. Okay, next up, let's clear this bed, pull out the basil. I'm gonna hang this to dry. I've never dried any herbs before, but I'm gonna get some basil and some sage on the go. So that seems to be attached to the tomato plant. There we go. And I'm gonna harvest some tomatoes. I'm gonna harvest all the tomatoes and rip these plants out basically and redo this entire bed, but I'm actually excited to see green tomatoes because there's a delicious green tomato pickle that I've made in the past, and that's what I'm gonna do this year as well. So seeing these unripened tomatoes, it's actually a good thing. Maybe not this guy. This one's a little small, but you can go in anyway. And then these ones that are like eating candy. I love these small tomatoes so much, so much. This one looks a bit dodgy. Into the compost you go. It's funny, they look like little mini watermelons. I did try to grow cucamelons once and it didn't work very well. So even though the cucamelons were a fail, I do still really love trying to grow different things, maybe unusual things, especially trying different varieties of tomatoes and peppers because I use them so much. This one. So the internet is telling me to plant these bad boys 30 to 45 centimeters apart, but I'm gonna go a little closer. I don't actually know if they're gonna reach maturity because I'm gonna pull them out before I start the garden next year. So that'll be around April, and I think they don't really mature until, at least according to the packets, until around midsummer. But I just want them for ground cover, mainly nitrogen fixing, and as I mentioned before, I don't actually really like the lupins themselves. So it's yet another experiment. Keeps things interesting, keeps things fun. They really are amazingly beautiful when you see them filling fields in Portugal. There's often massive fields along the sides of the roads, and I'm pretty sure the flowers are purple or yellow. And yeah, just seeing a field full of them is incredibly, incredibly beautiful. So I'm sort of rushing to get this done because I totally forgot that today is voting day. So I'm gonna head to the local school where I'm registered to cast my vote and yeah, do that. Be a productive member of Portuguese society. It's been interesting to see all of the people, the local politicians campaigning, all of their agendas, and yeah, it's been fun to kind of dive a little bit more into that, whereas in previous years I hadn't actually been registered to vote at all, and I paid zero attention. But since I'm going to be living here, I think it's a good idea to educate myself on the politics and try to participate as well as an educated member of the voting society. So So I think that's a good spot to finish the video. I was going to power on ahead with a little bit more garden work, but tomorrow is going to be spent at Sinead's with our lady building group, and I think we're going to be working on her bathroom. So I'm going to share that in my next video, along with a lot more garden work and probably some more work on the utility room foundation, which has a new name, and it's all thanks to a comment that I got, I think in my last video, but I cannot for the life of me find the actual commenter. So if you were the person that gave me this suggestion, thank you, and I'm sorry I can't find your name. It seems like it's vanished into the ether, so who knows what that's about. But the name for this new building is going to be called the Crack Shack, which, when I say it out loud sounds kind of weird, but it's an homage to the word crack, C-R-A-I-C, which is a very commonly used word in Ireland for fun. And Sinead and I greet each other all the time with this word, and this shed thing is going to be a place of fun, and I think that's what I'm going with. Who doesn't love a rhyme as well? So thank you to whoever suggested that, and thanks to everyone else for all your great suggestions. There were some really good things in there, and it was a tough choice, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Crack Shack. I think a lot of crack will be had in there, of the Irish word type, not the hard drugs type. So that's the decision, and I feel like it's going to be a place of lots of activity and fun in the future if I can ever get this thing actually built. I also voted the other day, and it ended up being that the PS group, one in our area, something socialists. I should probably figure out the names of the actual parties. I did know at one point, but I've completely forgotten. And yeah, it was just like a fun thing to participate in. And going in to vote was interesting. It's just you literally stick an X on a piece of paper. Super old school, the way we used to do it in Canada. I haven't voted there in a long time, so I don't know what's happening now. But they don't even ask to see any ID, so it's all kind of, yeah, very throwback. And it was nice to be able to participate in the process. So I'm blabbing on. I've been working pretty hard today. I think I just need to go drink some water, have a shower, and have a nap. So enough chitter chatter. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.